What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Ace of Base. And I wanted to give a shout out to someone who had commented for more Ace of Base reactions. I do appreciate that, and indeed this is a group that I've wanted to explore more deeply. As I mentioned in the first couple reactions, this is a group whose music, was part of the sonic landscape of my teen years in the 90s, but for whatever reason, and I think, as I've explained in other deep dives, I was getting into techno and punk rock and some other styles in the mid-90s, so I think that precluded me from going down some paths I might have otherwise, including with Ace of Base's music. As I mentioned before, I really enjoy what it sounds like, maybe, and given not just the couple reactions I've done, which are both for tunes that I did remember on some level, but based on some things that people have said, that they had this synthesis of European style synth pop with reggae vibes and reggae rhythms, and someone even mentioned there was like a name that some people had tried to craft and put onto their style of reggae, and it made me think that there are some sub-styles of different genres, but including reggae, that because they end up mingling with a more local musical culture, it ends up spawning a sort of offspring genre. And I was thinking about reggaeton, which is basically reggae but with Latin music vibes and Spanish language lyrics and so on. And I wonder whether the name, which in the moment of course I can't think of, but that someone or multiple people tried to coin in regard to Ace of Base's music, was an attempt to try to find a new description that, okay, this isn't classic 60s reggae or even 80s reggae, this is something else, and it's mixed with synth pop, but it does have those rhythms and it does have those vibes, so maybe we need to come up with a new label for it. Now, as I think the person mentioned at the time, it was never a name that caught on widely, or I think even beyond Ace of Base's music. But yeah, I am curious whether the remainder of their catalog, including tunes which I haven't heard before, which I think we're about to listen to the first one of those, will have that similar synth pop reggae synthesis. So yeah, the next tune is called Young and Proud. I feel like you could go a couple different ways with that. In one sense, it just makes me think about that experience of self-satisfaction and a forming of oneself when you begin to make choices on your own, when you begin to determine your hobbies and your interests beyond just that of what your guardians or parents tell you as you grow up. So perhaps it relates to that feeling of individual identity and being very proud of who you're becoming or what you're into. I feel like maybe there could be a more negative interpretation, the idea of people being a bit too headstrong, a bit too convinced of their own righteousness in that, oh, you're older, you don't understand, we do things differently, and so on. And ultimately that might lead them to make bad choices or be reckless and so on. So I feel like Young and Proud, it could have negative connotations. It might not have anything to do with either of those interpretations, but it is an interesting phrase and one that, begs a bit of explanation in terms of, okay, what's really going on here? So, and yeah, like I said, I'm curious as to whether this will have that synth pop reggae feel. So let's find out. This is Ace of Base. The tune is Young and Proud, and it's from the 1992 or maybe 1993 US version of Happy Nation. I'll look that up and put it in the description. Feels a bit more dancey, like a 4/4 kick drum is going to come in. I love it. Might have been some master work there. Like good early trance in like 93. But this is more housey, like. If that's what I heard. that vocal flair, give me that grit, that growl. Definitely sounds lyrically, it sounds different from either of the ideas I had. This is not transactional, this is a voluntary association. But yeah, the idea that this other person never hears them, it sounds like more emotional than I thought. It sounds more specific and personal than I thought, and less making a broader statement about we're young people feeling overconfident, or maybe just confident and asserting ourselves. So yeah, it felt like it was more specific and more love, or at least emotion based. But yeah, didn't pick up enough of it to understand why this other person isn't hearing them. And just with that line, maybe the implication is that the connection is not there, but the singer, the narrator, desperately wants it to be. So yeah, lyrically I'm not quite sure what's happening, but I enjoyed that sonically. It had a nice groove to it. There are moments where it felt more housey, a couple moments where it had a bit of an early trance feel, which again, 92 or 93, that's, trance has been around for a couple years by this point, but it's still pretty much in its infancy, or at least its early formative period. And it's by like 94, 95, hard trance begins to become a specific thing, and diverges from what we might call progressive trance and melodic trance, and it begins to crystallize and splinter. But yeah, for a tune from 92, 93, and as someone who's very into 90s electronic music, trance and techno and so on, I give respect to that tune. And I also enjoy that it did have a different flavor. It wasn't quite the same reggae synth pop vibe, which admittedly I hope I hear more of that. I really do like that, and I hope that is a significant part of their flavor. But I do like diversity as well, and that was a cool track. So let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.